All right, well, we got to talk about Battlefield 6 now. I looked at the trailer, I kind of picked it apart as best as I could, and I'm going to talk about a few things here because I think it's a real return to form, at least from this trailer and the first impressions that I'm getting from it. It really feels more like Battlefield 2, which was my jam back in the day. That's kind of where I picked up the Battlefield franchise, and it's definitely right up my alley, it seems, at least from this trailer. Now, we haven't gotten actual gameplay. The multiplayer overview or the reveal for that is July 31st. I'm going to do a video on that too for sure, because this is kind of bringing me back to the old days of playing Battlefield 2 and 2142 with my friends. Even up to like Bad Company 2, and I got into Battlefield 1 and Battlefield 3 and 4, but not as much. I mean, 2 was really the thing that I loved, and 2142, I'll admit, 2142 was more my jam than 2. But that said, this definitely looks more like a Battlefield game to me. It seems like they're trying to return this back to the good days of Battlefield and not all of this, all the stuff that they've been doing lately. I mean, I have to admit, like, Battlefield 5, Battlefield 1, and especially Battlefield 2042, 1 was great. 5 was just abysmal, and 2042 was abysmal. And it was really more just because it felt hollow. It didn't have the same feel as those older games. And I think because they were trying to chase all these new features and new technologies, and they were really kind of centering the game around those things instead of the spirit of the game when it was just about multiplayer warfare combat, and it was back to those roots. And I think this is a return to that. It does still have all those new features and everything, but they're really not pushing them in this. It doesn't seem like they're really trying to center the game around features like they really did with 2042, where it kind of felt hollow. At least to me, it felt hollow. And, it's kind of has all the new bells and whistles, but it's not focused on them. So they've taken the approach of making a Battlefield game with all that tech in it, but that's not the center focus. So I think that's going to change the game for Battlefield. I think this is a return to form, and especially these days. Battlefield and Call of Duty have been fighting each other for time immemorial at this point, and Call of Duty's kind of fallen off a cliff. I mean, they've really lost the plot over there. So if Battlefield can get it back, if they can do a true return to form, which they didn't stray as far from that plot as Call of Duty did, in my opinion. So I think that this is a real chance for them to finally not be the underdog, because they've always felt like the underdog to me. And I don't know, this looks really good. It looks really interesting. It's got all the elements, like, there's jets, there's ships, there's helicopters, there's tanks, there's everything that you would expect in a Battlefield game. Everything is kind of where it needs to be, at least from this trailer. And again, this is not actual gameplay footage. Like, none of this, from what I've seen, is actual gameplay footage. This is all very carefully orchestrated in the engine, granted, but it's still very carefully orchestrated in that engine. And they can do a lot of tricks to make it look way better than it actually will be in the game. I mean, we all know this by now, but that's a common thing is the trailer is always going to look better than the game, and they're taking that to further and further degrees as time goes on. And certainly the Battlefield franchise is very guilty of that, along with many others. I mean, Call of Duty is the same thing, but I think it's going to look good. I think it's going to look really impressive once we see the actual end result, the actual gameplay, just based on like how the engine is working at its very, very best, at its very optimized. We're going to see performance tweaks and things are going to be less resolved and less high detailed, and it's not going to be like this, but I think it's going to get pretty close, a lot closer than the previous Battlefield games have done. And overall, I mean, the graphics don't matter. At the end of the day, the gameplay matters, especially in Battlefield, and it looks like they're trying to put all the elements together in the way that they need to make this a successful game, to return to form, to return back to, the old days of Battlefield where we all jumped on with our buddies and had a lot of fun. So I hope that that's true. I hope that's the way this is going to go. It does certainly look like it. It kind of gives me, and this is a weird one, but it's kind of given me a little bit of Ravenfield vibes, which that is very much a spiritual like successor, a love note to old Battlefield. So I think getting that kind of vibe from this and seeing like, some of the ships and some of the way that things are put together with the vehicles and the infantry and everything, I think that's a really good sign for this. So I'm very hopeful. I think, Battlefield deserves another win. I mean, it's been a while. I mean, the last real win that Battlefield was Battlefield 1, and that was 2016. So we'll see what happens, but I hope this is another win for them. I hope they get a modern combat win. And I also like the premise, like the idea that, there's this paramilitary force that's kind of, from these former NATO allies, and they're trying to like take over. And I would really like to hear more about the story, and we're going to hear more about the story because, again, another thing is the single player is returning to this game. So that's fantastic. I mean, you really need a single player campaign for these things to make sense. For these things to be, for these kind of games to be enjoyable, I think you really need that single player experience to go along with the multiplayer, because they work hand in hand. They make the world more cohesive. They give a backstory. They give some of the lore behind what's happening in those multiplayer battles, and it really brings things into focus. At least for me, it does. So I'm glad that that's returning. I'm glad it looks like it does. I'm really hopeful about this. And we'll see where it goes. But right now, all we can do is wait for that July 31st reveal and see what that looks like. Because I think I'm going to be happy. I think we're all going to be happy with that just based on this. So fingers crossed. So that's all I got for you guys. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like these kind of things, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you guys later.